There we go. Hey guys, how's it going? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Collegiate Star League. It is Thursday, November 2nd. We're a little bit less dressed than last time around. I know we don't look as good as we did on Tuesday, but welcome in. We have some StarCraft today. It is the remastered edition, aka Brood War, the new but old, same but different.
Good job. I'll give you that one, I guess.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad at the reference. I was trying to find one, but today's StarCraft Remastered. We have Zulrah versus Oceano to kick off our fourth week of StarCraft Remastered action. Joining me to my I got it right this time. To my left, we have the SRF, one of our VG casters, filling in this week with me as our BlizzCon crew is out and about doing their things in BlizzCon land in Anaheim. So we are here, stuck with you guys, not you guys with us. Today we're stuck with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm pretty excited about Brood War. I mean, this is like my childhood in a nutshell. So like all I did was sit on BattleNet and play use your map settings games for like ever. So I'm never very good competitive wise at it, but I've always loved the game.
You were
so
one of the few ones that actually like played Brood War. Like a lot of us, we came in at like StarCraft 2 originally, but yeah, you were one of the ones that actually played Brood War before all that. I'm kind of jealous. I'm a little bit jealous.
I didn't play the actual ranked style and like as hardcore as I did in StarCraft 2, but like it was a vast majority of my childhood, man. Like I love this game, and it's just cool to be in it and have it all redone and still have the clunky movements that it still always had. But you know, it's Brood War. It is what it is. But it's clean, and to see some good ranked matches here is gonna be some fun.
Dude, that first week when StarCraft Remastered came out, every StarCraft 2 player that didn't play Brood War before that was just like, was this the actual game beforehand? Why are all my units getting stuck in the ramp? Somebody move this Ultralisk like out of the way.
Yeah, the clunkiness of the game and all the little nuances of it. Just like the game was made in 1998, man. You got to give it. It was the best of its time, and it's stand the test of time as well because it's well made and everything like that. It's just you gotta think about the time frame, like you said, the units getting stuck and things like that. Things weren't as smooth back then, but for the game to still be actively competitive this far after the fact is just something you got to keep in mind that is cool, and just appreciate the skill it requires to play this game because it is not easy.
No, not at all. But looking at today, actually, before we even get into today, if you're not familiar with the StarCraft Remastered format that we've imported into the CSL once again, it is a best of 3, map 1 predetermined, loser picks next map, best of 3 system. Today, for the map pool, we have Fighting Spirit as our first predetermined map, and then they'll be able to pick out of the maps in the map pool, which is Arcadia, Circuit Breakers, Fighting Spirit, Tau Cross, and Python. So a nice little map pool that's generally been seen, I guess I want to say, in the latter stages of Brood War competitive play, and as well on the professional side. So for those that actually do play Brood War, you are in luck, just because you'll be able to have at least something with familiarity on that side. But who's going to be playing today? And that is going to be Zulrah representing York University versus Oceano, aka Old Man Slum, from the Schoolcraft Community College. Want to take a shot in the dark where Schoolcraft Community College is?
I feel like it's some East Coast place somewhere, to be honest. Am I right, or even close?
Kind of. It is, if I got it right, I think it was Michigan. Yeah, it was in Michigan. It's in Michigan. It's like right outside of Detroit, like barely like on the outskirts of Detroit.
I never really guessed.
Yeah, no, it's like if anybody, we ask anybody, where's Front Range or Pikes Peak Community College? At the same time, you're not exactly gonna know.
Well, Pikes Peak is easier because Pikes Peak is normally associated with the city at least. But yeah, no, it is what it is, man. People, we don't all go to big name schools. We can't all be, the Ohio State University or something like that. Plenty of other places to go to get an education and play some CSL. So
Gotcha. Well, we're going to be heading into the first game, it looks like, and here we go, guys. ZVT. This is kind of a fun little classic, I would say.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that, the Classico matchup here.
Let's make sure that I just got my stuff correctly. I got some cool little toggles I learned. Oh, yeah. Gorgeous. Completely flawless victory right there. All right, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Collegiate Star League. Today is Brood War Day, aka StarCraft Remastered. I keep forgetting that I cannot observe how I can observe StarCraft 2, so if starts sliding, let me know. Oh, I forgot I have to kind of shift drag a little bit instead of smooth scroll. Looking at the top right side of Fighting Spirit, we have the Zerg player. It is Old Man Slum. His opponent over at the top left side of the map in the purple is going to be the Terran player Zulrah. ZBT. This could be interesting, especially in game one, depending on if you want to catch your opponent off guard. Zerg, obviously if they want to, can throw down that really early pool, send Lings if they scout, and especially with this first Overlord, as it's going right now, might find his opponent in the first spot. Could be an interesting strategy choice just to kind of surprise your opponent really quick. Lings move pretty quick. Marines do not, but the micro is definitely interesting in this game. Like you mentioned, clunkiness.
Yeah, it feels clunky when you play it, but that's just how the units responded back then. I mean, it's just how it was. The game's always been this way. So if you've played it before, it's just reskin basically. That's all. The skins and everything looks fantastic. This is probably my first time in observer mode with it, so I'm super excited about the fact that I can zoom all the way out and see everything. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that mouse wheel command is so dope.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, but with the close spawns like this, the Zerg's gonna get the scout off with the Terran going in the wrong direction. This can really depict how builds go. I mean, it could be very standard, but he could also go for a fairly safe opening here to try, because he knows where the Terran is here in a minute, but he doesn't know if there's gonna be a bunker rush or stuff like that happening. Cheese has always been fairly well known on, in TVZ forever. I mean, that's how Boxer made a name for himself originally.
Indeed.
Was just bunker rushing the crap out of people. Same with Flash as well. I mean, it's just these strategies work in certain scenarios, and close spawns is one of those scenarios that can happen. But here comes the scout in from the Terran as well.
Yeah, he's gonna spot, see that there's a hatch coming down, but it looks like it's about halfway built, not actually down. He'll see the pool is down as well, so he knows at least for the time being he's a little bit safe. If he wants to take his own expansion for the moment, he already has barracks and should have Marines coming out here pretty soon, just to be able to deflect any aggression or early Ling pressure. He will need to at least produce a couple Lings and a couple Marines, and probably hold that ramp up as best as he can. And look at this. I mean, I don't know if this is really interesting per se, but already a really quick third hatch coming out of Old Man Slum right here. This is going to allow him to not only produce very quickly a lot of Lings, but as well drones. So this should be a notification right now for our Terran player Zulrah that he could possibly expand and expand safely. I expect as the gas is going down, we'll eventually most likely see a factory. If not, we would have maybe seen another Rax come down. But for the time being, he spots that there's expansion as well, so he knows he's fairly safe at the moment. Worst comes to worst, the Zerg player, if he falls under any pressure, he could just throw down a sunken colony. AK for those StarCraft 2 players, that's kind of like the spine crawler, but just a little bit, it feels like a little more OP. To be honest.
Yeah, they're a little bit more helpful in the defense area. I don't know the exact numbers, but Sunkens have always been something that are really hard to fight into without the right army. But I feel like that macro hatch is what it would be considered in this case, because that's what they need him for. There's no injects here like in SC2. He throws that down so he can get his production going a little bit smoother and stuff like that. It looks like he is sending Lings across the map to scout here, and the bunker is going down for our Terran player. But there are 4 Marines versus 4 Lings, so the Lings shouldn't have a chance here. They might get
or
one
at least
kill.
They should be pushed off for the moment. They can't engage into that unless they have a little bit more. Now, cool to see. I don't know. Actually, should I drop this down? Is it Alt D? How do I kill it? Can I not kill the production tab? Damn it! I feel like I'm cheating right now. I feel like I'm cheating every time in Brood War. I'll have to figure out what the hotkey for that is, but generally we can at least see right now what he's coming up with. Zerg layers finishing up. Zerg extractor. He hasn't researched speed on his spawning pool, so what this could mean is that not only is he investing this gas into an early layer, but that could mean that he's going to throw up some early tech, as in maybe a
I feel like it's going to be a mutas. Yeah, mutas are fairly common from what I remember from what I've watched from Pro League and stuff like that. Mutas are a staple in TVT, and if you have good muta control in ZBT, sorry, if you have good muta control, it's devastating. It's really hard to deal with for a really long time for Terran players. So it will be interesting to see that second gas is down, and you definitely is a big gas investment to do such a thing. And you only need I think you only need like 5 or 6 mutas to be really effective with it, as long as you micro it properly. But we'll see where he decides to go here once that layer finishes, it's almost done now.
Just about done. So for those that are watching and just tuning in for the first time today, I want to again welcome you guys to the Collegiate Star League. If you haven't followed us yet this year, be sure to follow us on Twitter at CollegiateSC2 for all news, updates, and everything else that you would ever need. And then on top of that, you guys can follow us on Twitter at CStarLeague. And you guys can keep tabs on everything that's going down this whole entire season. So
the Hydra Den goes down.
Oh my god, I like over zoomed in right there. Yeah, no.
The Hydra Den and a Zerg Spire go down. That's very interesting. The Spire go down
this
at the same time.
Really risky. I mean, if not for the amount of time that's taken him to kind of produce and decide what he's doing, an early Marine push with Stim could have actually got quite a bit of damage done here, I would think. So.
Yeah, it's possible, but Stim is just now starting. He has +1 on the way as well, though. But the Lings are sitting outside of Zulrah's base here, so he can't really sneak out or anything. He also has that Overlord in the upper position to see if there were to be a drop or anything like that. So I feel like Old Man Slum here feels fairly safe, and that's why he's double teching. Lurkers are also well known to deflect the pushes of Terran Bio early game, which is something that is what looks like coming out from our Terran player here, because there are 4 more racks coming.
Oh man, he's going full Flash the other day. I watched Flash versus Bisu playing the ASL. This was like at 5 in the morning our time, something like that. It was ridiculous. I don't know. Well, I say I don't know why I'm still up, but I'm usually up at that time anyway. So was watching, and he started opening up with like mech play. Obviously how Flash usually does, a lot of vultures, a lot of tanks, and then all of a sudden in the middle of the game he just throws down like 8 Raxes in his base and just turns on like this huge bio pressure that eventually ended up losing. But it was like really cool to see like a heavy transition. But with obviously Raxes, at least the production advantages, most of the time you can produce units a little bit quicker in waves compared to something like tanks or even in theory vultures. Vultures don't actually take that long to build, but they can't shoot up in the air either, so that's kind of the disadvantage.
They're not the greatest against mutas, which is why you do that. But we see the Zerg throwing this is kind of a typical thing I feel like in the Brood War scene, is Zergs will throw their third base off in like a wild place, like we see it now going down to the bottom right. This allows, he's going to send some Hydras that he'll morph in the Lurkers down there. It allows him to have a base that can mine, keep that much needed Zerg economy going. Excuse me. But yeah. The bases are a little bit more spread out. Terran don't have a whole lot of drops as much as comparison to StarCraft 2. So it'll be interesting to see how it works. But here comes that Marine push. This is what I was talking about earlier. The Marine medevac push coming out from the Terran base. He's going to clear out these Lings first, it looks like, and then he'll want to try and do some damage here. But which is why our Zerg player got the Lurkers up. The Lurkers are going to be what stops this it doesn't look like much because it's StarCraft remastered, so it's not as scary as some of the bio numbers you might see in StarCraft 2. But this is a very, very scary push that's coming across. It is going to be +1s with stim timing and the medevacs there. So
pull those things back. I thought he was going to set this up to try to sandwich the bio, but he does have Lurkers coming out, so he's going to be able to burrow those.
Yeah, he has a ton of Lurkers, so it's going to be interesting to see how this works.
He does scan ahead and sees that there are the Lurkers ahead, so he's got to be very careful. He's got to approach his split up, but as well there's that problem where he's got a lot of Lings that he's got to deal with. The Lings are either going to go all the way around, or he's just going to set this up to try to sandwich them. Going to bait a few Marines down there to see if maybe there's a third hatch in that place. Obviously not going to find it there. But
he's going to find these Lings, though, which is really good, and he's going to clear out all of them. Good idea here by Zulrah to see that those Lings were kind of going around. He's like, I'm going to get sandwiched probably, and he takes the heads-up play to move down there instead of just trying to move into the Lurkers, which there's going to be a ton of now because there's 2 sunken now. Is that 6 Lurkers in the front of his base? So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
This could be devastating too. If he continues taking this southern route without committing to this push, he's going to end up fighting the base down at the bottom right. But at the same time, if you notice down at the bottom right as well, he's got 3 Lurkers on that ramp set up. So if the Marines and the medics come up that ramp, they're going to get completely eaten up. Meanwhile,
luckily they're in a line though, so this might be okay. He only might lose a couple here. It depends on how fast he reacts. Here it comes. Yep, he does react fast. He does lose 2, but this was a good heads up play by Old Man Slum earlier too, because he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go make this base." He sent 3 Hydras down there early, and then as soon as he could make them lurkers, he did, because he knows that's what's gonna keep that base safe. And as you see, Zulrah's used to seeing something like this. As the Zerg player didn't have the 3rd close by, he went looking for that hidden 3rd base, I guess as they would call it now. But he trying to get damage done and stop the Zerg economy from rolling on here. And this looks like he's going to go the Lurker and going to use the Lurkers to defend, and then the Scourge come out. Kind of a weird choice, you might say. But the Scourge are eventually for the science specials that the Terran is going to have to build to detect the Lurkers.
Now, you say Scourge. Some might not be too familiar with that unit. What does it do in theory?
It's basically a flying baneling is the only way to describe it.
There we go. That's a great way to describe it, yeah.
That's what it was. It's made to help clear out air stuff. In the ZVT matchup, it is mainly used to kill science vessels, which are the detectors that Terran can make. It's the, what used to be, or what we now have as Ravens, used to be called science vessels. And there'll be a big part of this matchup once things get rolling, though. If we get to there, it looks like our Terran player is adding on 2 factories, though, and I don't know where his starport is. There is no starport yet, actually.
Yeah, he's right now kind of taking his time getting that production. We see the Marines coming right on back over to that natural expansion with another set of Marines. There's a lot of links still there, and now finally the Lurkers are beginning to move out to gain some traction and position outside of the base, hoping that he could maybe take that further 3rd, or at least even to an extent put a lot of pressure. But this timing might be really awkward as the Lurkers move up. Yeah. There's a Bioforce that's going to be sandwiching from the other side. The Lurkers are not burrowing. Get in the ground! Get in the ground!
Here they go. There was no focus fire on those Lurkers, though, either, so they're only a Lings go down here. So it's going to be interesting if he's going to take these first units that he had in the first push. Zulrah might try and bring those around, but there's plenty of Lurkers behind at the choke point there to stop this push as well. Look how fast those Marines die. He's going to try and push into it, but there's no way Bio can push into that many Lurkers. They just die in one volley.
Yeah, that's a huge problem, because maybe if it was just Lurkers, he could spread out, attempt to try to maybe push it, but the problem is he's got sunken colonies there as well. Just a lot of defenses in place. For the meantime, obviously he can't really escape his base unless he gets the Lurkers out. But for the time being, at least he's going to be safe defending his natural base. The Lurkers in the middle of the map, though, are a little bit stuck out of position getting chased right now. Gonna need to burrow here really quickly if they want to try to take out some of these Marines before they might lose any of their life.
They'll get that small group there with some of the Marines falling back. He needs to try and regroup his forces here is what Zulrah needs to do. Or, like he says, keep moving those units on the right, that initial push that he has. If he can move them back and forth and pick off units, that'd be really good. But he really needs to keep an eye on these Lurkers in the middle of the field. He needs to get them dead as soon as possible, because rallying in this game is something that could happen in StarCraft 2 is really bad if you miss rally. But if you miss rally in the Lurkers in StarCraft 1, you can lose a game in seconds, basically. You'll lose most of your army.
Yeah, and especially now that it's so heavy on Ling and Lurkers that he can't really risk losing any of this. He has a Spire out. He could, if he wanted to, in the midst of all of this, get some mutas just to go harass the base on his opponent.
Yeah, but there's already defense. Yeah,
there's only a couple turrets. I feel like he could go through them if he built enough mutas. Like, turrets are pretty strong in Brood War, but not if you get a nice little clump of mutas going at him. So
yeah, he would need a lot more mutas than he currently has. And I mean, he has the gas banked up for it. He has almost 1,000 gas, but at this point, he should be throwing down more like an Ultralisk Cavern or something like that here soon to figure out what's going on to go to that tier 3 tech. The Defiler Den is down. That's what I was looking for as well. That will be something that will be really helpful in dealing with the Bio, because you can just throw that Dark Cloud down and it nullifies their range, so they can't actually do damage. So that's like Zerg spellcasters. It's like pivoting on High Templars as a Protoss player in StarCraft 2. Defilers are just so important.
And the reason they're important is just because any ranged unit turns into melee really quick if they can get that cloud over you. So for those that are wondering, in terms of engagement purposes, if those Marines tanks get really close in, or if those siege tanks even just siege up, you can throw that Defiler cloud up, and all of a sudden, basically, all that range gets nullified. The tank completely gets nullified until he unsieges, so every unit almost becomes melee in a sense. And so, really, the advantage for Terran in a situation like this, as we see, oh, there's a cloud.
Yeah, he's already doing the consumes to eat those lurglings and then move forward with the cloud.
Yeah, this is kind of a little bit of a risky spot. If he can break out with the lurkers and the lings and burrow everything in time on top of the clouds,
Yeah,
this could be a
that's
good
what he's hoping
opportunity.
for. Is there any scans though? He's got the clouds down though, which is going to keep some of those guys safe, which is exactly what he wants to do. As you see, the damage is nullified by the tanks with the cloud, so the tanks and the Marines can't do anything to these lurkers that are inside these clouds, which is going to allow him to push out with the lings here and actually try and take a fight while the tanks are on siege. It's a slow push, but this is kind of how it has to work, just because of how strong tanks and bio are against unburrowed lurkers. I mean, unburrowed lurkers are extremely weak because they can't do damage, so they need to have this cover from this defiler to give them the ability to break out of the base.
Dude, compared to me, these kids are so damn good. Just watching, just watching them. I'm looking at all over the map. Zulrah's got a nice little marine medic contain out here outside of the bottom third base. Meanwhile, though, as he takes his own third, he's got defenses in case there's like a counter attack. He's being careful enough with his spread for the lurkers and the lings.
Yeah, and he's ready for the ling counter attack right now. Going to catch some tanks by themselves, but it shouldn't matter because there's a ton of stuff behind her. That's a lot of tanks. Marine tank is not something that I'm as familiar with seeing in the ZVT matchup in Brood War, so it's kind of interesting to see it this way because this is something that's almost it's StarCraft 2-esque. Like normally you'd see Marine tank medevac pushes all the time in ZVT, and it's interesting to see it happen in Brood War. Whereas there's no medevacs, there are medics, but I feel like the starports now are added on. I feel like the science specials need to come out here soon because those are going to be what allows Terran to break through this defiler storm. Because how do I explain it? Science vessels are also very heavy casters in this game, and when they have their irradiate ability, they'll be able to cast that on some of these units, which does immense amount of damage to bio units, and that's going to
for the timing purposes of it. Kind of you mentioning science vessels is they're going to be really great and effective against ultralisks, but there's nothing else really out on the map that the science vessels outside of maybe like the defilers or I guess
the defilers is what you target,
or maybe the lurkers. I guess if you could scan and see them, but at the you don't want to exactly waste a radiate on that. So it's kind of interesting to see how that's going to go on. But over here at the bottom right side of the map.
The defensive push out there with the Nidus canal right there for the Zerg player. Old Man Slum using that to move his units down there to break this contain or attempt to break this contain.
It's being
not
so
going the greatest.
Messing with the AI right now. Zergling's trying to hit the Marines, but the medics are almost like shielding them as they're healing. And then
here comes another push out in the middle. He's going to try and break the siege here, but I don't know if this is the greatest idea. There's so many tanks here. All the Zerg units are getting massacred. This might have been a bad idea. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
the lings are going to come out too late.
A little bit of a late cloud right there too as well to try to save anything else that he could possibly find. But some units are getting pushed out and killed off. The tanks on the right side are getting isolated, so they'll need to attempt to try to get out of there. But still a really healthy force over on the left side at the current moment. When you look at upgrades, Marine, the bio right now on the ground is 1-1. Tanks are at 0-0. You look at the Zerg upgrades, they're currently at 1-1 themselves with plus 2 Carapace underway. I'm just still surprised because I don't see the am I missing this Ultralisk Cavern somewhere? Because I don't see it.
I feel like it was missed or something, or he didn't want to do it, because I don't see an Ultralisk Cavern either, and that is normally what you see in the meta of TVZ. Maybe he just figured he didn't have the money for it, but like he's banking a ton of gas. He has 2,500 gas in the bank. And that push he just attempted to do, I mean, yeah, you could say he might have been freeing up supply or something like that, but he's actually down like 60 supply. That push was extremely not helpful for him. He's finally able to clear out the bottom part of this, but Terran has a pretty heavy stranglehold on this map, and he's going to go searching to make sure that there's no other Zerg bases on this map and start expanding himself. And that's going to become really difficult for this Zerg player to deal with.
Yeah, if not for some of those losses
and there's the Ultras Cavern, by the way. It's just now building.
Yeah, if not for those losses, I would say that like actually Old Man Slim's not in a bad position just because his macros are actually so I want to say good enough to keep pace with everything going on. He's got 4 hatches on the bottom side of that base, so he's producing a lot, even though it's just a lot of it's in lings defilers. and lurkers, but I think if you can get the ultras out, that might be a game changer, because with the defilers, if you could get those clouds off, get the ultras up close and personal with the links, he's going to be able to take a lot of these tanks in a lot of these fights. My only worry, obviously, is the upgrade count right now, and if it continues, to be slightly in favor of the Terran, plus the tanks, that could be a bit problematic, even in close range. Just focus firing with the tanks, a lot of the ultras, they could fall pretty quick. So we'll see. But here comes also Hydralisk. It's interesting that he's beginning to add those in as well. I think that's great.
Those are probably for the additional lurkers, to be honest. Like, he lost a lot of lurkers in that first push. Yeah, he just morphed 5 or 6 lurkers. Yep. So he's doing that to try and he's going to need the lurkers to help deal with the bio, and the ultras are there to help break that siege tank line, because once if you Dark Clouds Ultralist, they basically go on a murdering spree, and just like they don't really cleave or anything like that in Brood War, if I recall correctly. I don't think they have any cleaving, but they do a ton of damage and they take a ton of. So it's going to be interesting. But here comes a little push in here. Not paying attention is Old Man Slum, and he's going to lose 2 defilers there with just a couple Marines dying.
Achoo! Just like
yeah.
Tries to say whatever he can. He does have a nice little counterattack going, though, towards the 6 o'clock, back over to
There are
9.
4 siege tanks over there with a good clump of Marines. It'll be interesting to see if it does any damage.
God, Zulrah's defense just is set up so well. His positioning, he's so patient. Even though he saw lurkers in the earlier base down at the bottom right side, he never panicked or overreacted. He just kind of took his time and positioned as well as he could. Lings are kind of good in here, though. They do clear a couple tanks and finally do.
Yeah, they do clear 2 tanks, because those are going to be +2. Or those are +2 armor on those Lings already. And the +2 melee and the +3 carapace is actually coming. Or no, that's chitinous plating. Sorry about that.
Oh.
But here comes the science vessels. This is where it comes in the irradiates. Like I said, go right down on the defilers, which is what you want, because those are the cash units. Those are the expensive ones that you need to get rid of. But those scourge that we saw earlier are now nowhere to be found. So these science vessels come in, drop the irradiates, and they're gonna kill those defilers for nothing, which is exactly what the science vessels are used for in this matchup. And of course, seeing the lurkers, because they're detected.
Plus, on top
another
of that, they're going to regain a lot of it. They're probably going to regain their energy, or at least get enough time to regain their energy to do another set of radiates too as well, which is kind of a bit scary. And this time around, he could probably focus them on the lurkers if no ultras are out to help support. And once that happens, the rest of the opening is
here comes an even bigger counterattack, though, to that southern base that already lost 2 tanks. So it'll be interesting. This one should break this pretty easily. Or not.
With Marines, I think he'll be alright for the time being, just because of the upgrades are just good enough, I think, for the Marines.
It's still only 1/1 Terran, and it's a 1/2 upgrade on the Zerg, but here comes that push into the main part of the Zerg base. The Scourge are now out to help deal with those science vessels. I think it takes 3 to kill one, but if he's paying attention, he could get 3 or 4 science vessels that are all piled up. There's actually 5 science vessels right on top of each other right there in that group. So you do have to be careful, though, because Scourge do really die super fast to Marine. So it's going to be interesting to see if Old Man Slum's going to be able to pull this off. But it looks like here it comes. That's what the answer is. It's going to be the counterattack from the south here with Scourge and Lings. Is he going to be able to break this? There's actually a Ling force to the north as well.
Yeah, this is going to be tough. He gets the science vessels away.
That was a move command, unfortunately, it looked like.
Oh, you lost so much. That's when I just box click everything, box click, A, box click A, just send everything as best I can, as long as nothing is on move command. But
unfortunately, those Lings were on move command. It looked like, as were the Scourge. The Scourge didn't have anything to hit because the science vessels flew away. But that was some odd control by Old Man Slum. It looked like it was going to be a really good idea, almost a 3-prong attack. But there goes the Scourge finally killing 2 of those science vessels off. Not controlled the best. If he would have hit the center clump, they do explode like banelings, so they explode on top of air. And air in Brood War does group up on top of each other, so it can be super effective for very little if you're not paying attention. But it looks like he's doing all right in it, and Old Man Slum is just still trying to figure out how he's going to be able to hold on here, I feel like. There still hasn't been any Ultralisk out. They're about to pop, actually, right now.
There's still quite a few units at home. I'm surprised he hasn't sent them over. Honestly, what he would do right now is walk across that third base line and just sandwich it. I bet he could just scan, move forward, and basically break through. There's not a lot of defenses remaining for Old Man Slum. He's got only a few lurkers up top. I mean, everything back at home is pretty well defended. So, his third base is going to be safe for a while. He's established his fourth base finally, and he's got defenses there as well. He has enough army, I feel like, to fight and go forward if he really wanted to as well, regardless of...
Yeah, he's going to bring in the rest of his units, too, it looks like, before he makes this push, making sure he really secured that third and fourth base before he makes this push is what I think he was thinking about. Obviously, it's a little tricky to move into such a defense position. But here comes the push, it looks like, and the Irradiate goes down on the Ultralisk immediately. That's going to help clear out some of those lanes, too. But here come the Dark Clouds. Is it going to be enough, though? Some of those Ultras are stuck in the back. That clunkiness of StarCraft, those 3 Ultras just sitting in the back doing almost nothing. But you see, these 4 Ultras come in. That first one was irradiated immediately, and it's now just about to die. After almost the entirety of this Terran defensive line is broken. Yeah. Welcome to Ultralisk, man. This is what Ultralisk do. He has the chitinous plate, so there's 5 armor on those Ultralisk. Marines do 7 damage with their +1 upgrade, so he's doing 2 damage a shot to them, and that's when they're not under a Dark Cloud. So this was really well done. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of science specials out right now that Old Man Slum could have taken advantage of to pick off, and that would make his next push of Ultralisk even better, but it doesn't look like he's able to get those. He just clears out all the ground forces as that poor Ultralisk dies in the center of the map with the Irradiate on him. And there were a couple there. It looks like I heard them explode, but I missed it. It looks like we lost a couple science vessels there to Scourge.
And even then, as well, he's managing to get his way through over to the fourth base, starting to shut down that economy.
If you look at the top of the base, you can see some classic Zerg stuff here at the top third, where one Marine is going to kill 2 Ultras by himself because the Ultras can't get to him. Those are the classic moments of Brood Lore that I like to see. But he's got 1 lurker there that's holding this entire push. And Scourge, if they can pick off,
flying into the base.
Yeah, they flew into the command center instead, but then they get focused down by the Marine. Fortunate for Zulrah there, because science vessels are not cheap, and oh my goodness, there's 6 Ultras behind that. That's really scary.
Yeah, Congo line, but he's got to be careful with all the... He's sending 1 vessel like carefully forward to see if he could...
and there's the 1 burrowed lurker, or burrowed Ultras that decided to res and kill 2. He died, but... Yeah, well, the siege line was broken. That's what Ultralists do. Like, that's what Old Man Slum should have been working for this entire time. I felt like he's trying to secure his own bases, which is what he's trying to do with the 3rd and the 4th and the bottom. So he'd have enough money to make the Ultralisk, I feel like, so he could make that push out that actually breaks the Terran line. But now the thing is he going to be able to do it again? And if so, is he going to go for that split push again where he's trying to do some damage at that 3rd? Or if he's just going to try and finish off that half-health 4th at the top of them?
Well, obviously, I don't want to give Old Man Slum any advice here because he's been, staying alive as well as he's been doing. But definitely getting that 3rd base and keeping that 3rd base protected out in the middle of the map is going to be really important to be able to keep his economy fresh to an extent. But yeah, there's a huge concave coming up right now with the science vessels, the Marines, all of these tanks in the back. They're slow pushing up and sieging up, and so there might be just a point in time where the science vessels hit all the Ultras and enough tanks and Marines with the concave are just going to get enough damage off where they're just not going to be able to engage.
Here comes the poking, yeah. He's going to come in and poke and find those expensive units. Starts with the Defiler, obviously, because those are the ones that are going to keep things alive. But here come all the Irradiates. He needs to keep as many down as possible on as many different Ultralisk and Defilers so that they can't tank all that damage, which is what they're about to do. There's a lot of tanks here, though, and tanks do a ton of damage to Ultras. There's no Dark Clouds to back this up, though, and all 6 of these Ultras are going to go down pretty fast, I feel like. There's 3 down already, and they're just walking into this tank line. And this is the switch that you were talking about, I believe, that Terran like to do. They start with that Marine medevac push, and then once Zerg has made the switch into Ultras and Defilers and stuff like that, they switch into a more mech mode where he has a ton of tanks and then the science vessels to back him up. Still needs the Marines, kind of, to keep the Scourge off the science vessels. But this is a mainly tank army now, which is odd because there are no upgrades for them quite yet.
It's a bold Scourge trying to fly in by themselves. I mean, at this point, I think it's obviously, again, in Brood War Remastered, it's like really the games can last forever for what it feels like, to be honest. But we look
It's just gonna be Terran has to take their time, which is exactly what he's doing. He's making the hard push here with the missile turrets to try and keep his tank safe. This is just him being safe and sure push. I feel like more than anything, he has a huge supply lead. He has all well 3 mining bases. Main is mined out, but just very calm and collective by Zulrah here to not try and force anything too aggressive. Like, I'm sure he could have been much more aggressive in a lot of instances here because he's had an advantage for so long, but he's just taking it slow, keeping himself in an advantageous position. What?
He radiated a Zergling and just like died right away. Oh,
yeah, that's what happens.
Not bad skirt shots right there. Able to catch a few of the vessels actually at the tail end.
He kills quite a few of them. There's only actually 5 left. There were like 8 there, I'm pretty sure.
But at this point, a little too much. And I like this. This is cute. Just throwing up a couple turrets out in the middle of the map. That way, if the science vessels are trying to escape, the turret could also help in terms of defense.
Look at this tank line, though.
As well. They'll be able to spot him, yeah. This tank line's really good. He's got him concaved, and this is just really tough. Oh, the Scourge, probably a really good opportunity right there to actually hit the science vessels back.
It looks like he's going to go in now. This is Hassett. Oh, they don't go the same way. 1 goes down, 2 goes down. There's only 3 science vessels left, but here comes 4 Ultralisk out to make a push. But there is no Defiler here to help with the Dark Cloud, so I don't know if they're going to last very long.
No Lings, no
Defilers. No Lings backup. It's more the Defiler Cloud he needs more than anything, because there's just nothing they could do against that much firepower from this Terran. This Terran should be able to move into this base now. There are no lurkers here left. There's nothing but Lings and Sunkens.
Continuing to push too as well. Yeah, I think you realize this is the remaining forces. He just needs to grab the remaining forces that he's got. He's got so many forces out in the middle of the map. Like, there's while we're watching that battle up at the front, you go like 50 feet over. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like 11, 12 tanks sieged up all the way back there as well that are not part of the battle or helping out. So while he's doing a really nice job.
4 more Ultras popped up. They're going to be able to do some damage here at least. They're going to clear 3 or 4 tanks out pretty easily. I think some of these other tanks, unfortunately, he's not leapfrogging those other 9 tanks that are behind. He's going to lose them here. Oh, the infamous defense matrix comes out on the tank to help keep it alive, deflecting some of that damage.
I feel like that's almost trolling at this point. he's just like, yeah, you could have this 1 tank. Well, he is breaking out. I kind of have to bite my tongue for the moment. This is kind of
here comes the other 10 tanks that he didn't have before. But tanks are not the most efficient against Lings, and not all these tanks are sieged. So there's going to be a lot of tanks that go down to just Lings here. And there's still more Lings and a Defiler and 1 Ultralisk in the background. I mean, it's asking a lot of this Zerg army, but that's all he has left. Defense makers on the Defiler. Now that, yeah.
That's definitely what you want to keep up right there. So pretty much trolling him. There we go. The rest of the forces are coming on up here. We're just basically waiting for the final push here as our Zerg player continues attempting to produce, but unfortunately he finds himself falling a bit behind. I mean, honestly, he did establish that third, or I guess his normal third base that we would usually see, and then on top of that he grabbed a 6th at the 6 o'clock. In theory, he could have the economy to continue to produce and play, but he just has to get in these really awkward little trays. He's obviously got to get more Ultras out as well to help himself out. If he's just producing 1 or 2 at a time, that's not going to be enough. They're really the big part of the battle. He's got the Defilers, and I think he's got enough of them out.
Rally is going into the Terran army right now. He just lost a bunch of Lings, unfortunately, and now here comes the... Is he trying to raid it? Oh, you might actually see the Devour when the Lings die like that. That's the Defilers devouring them for energy.
No, the science vessel actually like casted raid.
Oh, he actually casted raid on him?
He was trying to get an Ultralisk next to him and missed and hit the Ling. It was funny.
That's not always the greatest feeling in the world, but yeah. He has all these Defilers now, but there's no Ultras or Lings or Lurkers to go with him. It just felt like he always had... He had units, but he never had the right combination of to really break anything. He had that 1 good push that bought him some time, but there just wasn't enough. And he's making a huge Ling run by here that's going to find the Terran's base in the middle of the map. But at the same time, there are Lings rallying out of his own base, getting destroyed by a small group of now. So this is kind of a last-ditch effort. And this is normally why you had that tank line, is so that you could have Lings running like this and cleaned up by them. But
Dude, this could have been cute if he set this up a little bit sooner, had a few more lings, attacked from the south, and attacks the front as well to support. But, I mean, it's just such an enormous... even in that first fight we saw, it's just such an enormous Congo line of tanks that just keeps stretching back almost all the way back to his main, or his natural base. So, even though he's obviously getting slowed down at this middle fourth base, the problem is... yeah, there's just way too many units that just can defend and take out everything AoE-wise. I mean, the surface area that the tanks cover in terms of what they can damage and what they could do is just incredible. And now as well, we got a little teeny marine pack heading down to the 6 o'clock. That should clear out some of the drones down here as well. So, again, you know, I like the effort. I love the effort. I love the attempts at breaking out. I think he knows what he needed to do, but... just was, for some reason, I feel like he teched a little bit too late to it, more than anything. If he had ultras a little bit sooner, imagine him breaking out in the original pushes. Like, he would have had such an easier time and would have been able to, do so much more damage.
The unit composition is to use the defilers to make your ultras as tanky as possible, while the lings and lurkers end up doing most of your damage. Looks like this mined out left-hand base of the Terran is going to finally get cleaned up by some lings, but it is mined out except for the gas, so it's not that big of a deal for the Terran player. I mean, technically though, without middle base mining, and his top base is still mining, so that's okay. He does have technically 2 mining
I
bases
forgot about
here,
the 12 o'clock. I was just like, you know what? I think he's in a little bit of trouble, economically. But yeah, he's got the 12 o'clock. He hasn't been mining heavily as well from his natural.
And then there's a ling run back going into the main now. If he can pick off some more tanks here, this can be pretty good. I mean, these tanks are gonna fumble their way back in there, but it looks like he's gonna lose 2 or 3 more tanks before everything's said and done here.
Yeah, continuing to go on back and seeing what he can do. He's like focus firing that one tank.
Yeah, and then all the lings have an issue and run around in circles because they're AI is not this much. Yeah, look at the bottom push. Maybe we're wrong here. Holy crap! Look at this huge army he has. Does he have any defilers anywhere though? Is the real question.
Well, the problem is he lost a lot over in the natural area. He's been throwing up clouds and trying to hold his position, but now he's finally getting pushed out.
But now he's pushing a bunch of tanks with no defiler clouds, which just makes ultras sad in life. I mean, they can take a lot of damage, but not from that many tanks.
I mean, he even maybe could have managed if he had a few more lings and a couple ultras, if he came up spread and then moved forward.
Oh, there's the GG though, finally.
I was just thinking, I'm just looking at the game, I'm like, he could have maybe, broken that a couple times, but every time he goes for it, he goes in a straight line with all of his units one by one by one by one by one, and eventually they do get a little bit of surface area, but if he actually positions them, spreads them out, and then concaves on top of all the units at once, the tank fires can't just focus on that one little area that all the units keep getting filtered in. This was a problem when he was trying to get out of his natural over and over again, and he just kept eating a lot of those shots with a lot of units until he was able to get some of the defiler clouds to push him out. I think on a map like that, utilizing those chokes like he did for a good portion of the game was really advantageous for him.
Yeah, he bought a lot of time, and Zulrah, I think Zulrah gave him more time than he probably needed to as well, though. He was a little bit too reserved, and like you said, with Old Man Slum, I think all he really needed was to. It's really hard to do in Brood War because how you can only have a certain number of units bound to each key and stuff like that. So it's really hard to macro that well. But if he was able to do what you said and get a little bit more spread, or get all those units to move in from both sides at the same time, and force that tank fire to go in different directions, it could have been a completely different game, and could have really easily broken that I don't know, what do you want to call it, defensive line of tanks. Yeah. So it could have happened. It just, the execution was just not quite there.
The idea wasn't bad. The whole game, we're saying every time we're well, Terran's got an advantage right there, but every single, almost for a good chunk of that game, every time old man just kept pushing out, he actually ended up taking good fights, kept breaking out over and over again. Just the reinforcing units that Zulrah was able to produce eventually with upgrades was just a little bit too much for him to handle. So we're going to slowly get into game 2. It looks like the map is going to be on Circuit Breaker. Looks like, there we go, created lobby. So feel free to find us. If you guys are just tuning in, don't forget to give a big shout out to our CSL Dota 2 team, they're casting right now over on the first channel, British Columbia versus Washington, two teams that are 3-0 at the current moment as well. So if you guys are fans of Dota 2, it is cool to check out. And as well, flipping over to the schedule, given that if that pops up here in a moment, I hope it will show you guys. There we go. We have Zulrah versus Oceano today. Over the next few days, we're going to have Chicago versus Washington next Tuesday. Sosin versus Switchblade and StarCraft Remastered. UC San Diego versus UC Berkeley as well, following that up. And then once we flip back into that, we'll see that last match that popped up. But for the time being, as we kind of get ready to go into this game, how are you feeling right now? Is like the nostalgia hitting you into like a good wave? Like
Oh yeah, I can't. I almost can't explain how it is. 'Cause, like, I did not. Honestly can say I didn't watch Pro League and all that stuff while it was like first happening and things like that. I kind of caught it at the end while StarCraft 2 was starting to take over and things like that. But I don't know, man. It's just something about it. I spent so many hours playing this game, even in just user map setting and stuff like that, and all the other games, like the make your own type of thing. I've seen it happen, and it blows my mind to watch how good these guys are, to be honest, though, too, because this game is nowhere near as user friendly, as we'll call it, as StarCraft 2 is. StarCraft 2 is much more user friendly in that aspect. Obviously, game was made almost 20 years later, so it kind of gives you that ability to do that. But
so what you're saying is you like control groups that are unlimited. You like F2 button?
Unlimited control groups are really good, and the F2 button is also really good. But
the F2 button's really good after you play
I also like being able to have more than one building.
Mm-hmm. No, that's one of those things. I realize, like, the whole discussion about like more APM, it's like that's not an option. That's a necessity that you have to have. So, yeah, you have to actually be like really good and have great APM. That's just like you don't have an option to like not play fast in this game. You have to be able to produce, control everything, be at like all places at the map at once. So again, hats off to all the Brood War players that played and paved the way. You guys are all incredible. Like I don't know, knowing me when I was younger, if I would have loved this as much. Like Warcraft 3 was already a little bit of a slower game just in general, but even to that extent, it wasn't as like clunky and as paced as this game was. Like insanely, the game was pretty slow for the most part. Regardless, you just had to have good multitasking. I want to say.
Your back row has to be on point in remastered. You have to understand that, like, your your workers don't auto mine, things like that. Like, these are things that you have to manually go after every worker's done being built. You have to go to wherever you rallied it to, click it, and have it go start mining. Whereas in StarCraft 2, it is done for you. And a lot of things like that they seem so simple, but they're so, like, it's micro intensive though too. Like, you have to be thinking about these things. Like, okay, what just spawned? There's not a lot of notifications either that are telling you that, hey, by the way, your drones are done. This happened. This is what's going on. It's a little bit more passive, so you have to be more active in your own mind to realize, like, okay, what's about to finish? I don't want to queue up too many things and waste resources. I want to be able to move and make sure all my SCVs are mining and everything like that, while doing all the regular things StarCraft 2 that we like. Just managing your units in general. You have to be able to make supply depots and handle pushes and things like that, while doing all these extra little things that we take for granted in StarCraft 2.
After you play like a week of this game, like everything, you come back in StarCraft 2, you're like, oh, I feel so smooth. It's like coming out of like the what's it called in DBZ,
the hyperbolic chamber.
Not even the hyperbolic time chamber, but it's the like the space pods where they like to do the gravity training or whatever, like Vegeta and like it's like this game you're playing it. It's like 300 Gs like times gravity. You're just training. Your knees are like buckling on. You're about to fall over. You come back to StarCraft 2. You're like, wee, just like you're flying around.
You're like, wow, why is this so easy? All I have to do is manage my units and kill people. It's great.
Boost vacs are going all over the place. But let us quickly introduce the players. Down at the bottom right side of the map, Artarian leading the series 1-0. We have Zulrah in the blue, spotting a nice little drone scout right there. Can he get out? No, he will not. That's a casualty of war right there. Over at the top, First blood. I would, if I had a soundboard, I would like put that like always up if I could. We used to do that like in old like Dota 2 and stuff like that just for fun for a cast. So for StarCraft 2 it would have been a great addition. But looking at it right now, top left side of the map we have Old Man Slum representing the Zerg side for the Schoolcraft side of things. You know, again, going back to last game, he didn't play bad. I feel like he just got units out a little late, or maybe order of operation. If you were able to flip it, would you say probably would have been better to get the Ultras first before the Defilers? Because even if you didn't have the Defiler clouds, having those Ultras to fight and help you break out would have maybe been beneficial anyways beforehand, while like all the Terran upgrades weren't up to what they were, what the units count were. I feel like they might have been able to like suck enough of the damage up, even regardless, to help him break out even sooner.
It's possible, but like with the Ultras, the reason he took so long and stuff like that, he didn't make Ultras still out. Kindness play didn't completed either, because that is such a huge thing. The 2 bonus armor that you get from it, same as in StarCraft 2. I feel like the order was right. He just you do use the Defilers on the Lurkers and stuff sometimes too to help keep them alive so that they can deflect the initial Terran pushes. But it did feel like he was more behind than he wanted to be, because obviously it took so long for those Ultras to come out after he had a couple Defilers. I felt like maybe it was just the fact that he got caught at his 3rd and wasn't able to expand to a 4th that helped that had that happen, or maybe it was just him engaging too soon or trying to test the waters too soon. I'm not entirely sure what he could have done better in that situation other than wait till he had the full unit comp. But we're kind of seeing almost the exact mirror of what happened last game, where both players are kind of doing the same openings. There's 3 hatches down with a second base and a macro hatch down for a Zerg player. Terran expanded after 1 barracks and is kind of looking into a bunker and playing safe, whereas our Hive is done and the Spire and the Hydralisk Den, or our Lair is done and the Spire and the Hydralisk Den are coming down at the same time again. So it looks fairly similar to the last game. We'll see when our Zerg player, Old Man Slum here, wants to take a 3rd base, if he's going to go for another one on the other side of the map, which is, again, very common in Brood War because of how Niduses work.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too bad of an option. The advantage of that would be obviously the placement and the hidden location if his Terran opponent doesn't scout them. But Zulrah was kind of on top of it last game. I want to say he was actively scouting a lot of the game, so I don't think it would surprise him too much if he was able to find one. The one thing is with this natural 3rd base over here, there is no gas, so that would be the only thing. If you're going into more of a gas-heavier comps, like trying to get a lot of Hydralisks out, Ultras, upgrades, Defilers, you will be limited in the amount of resource collection in terms of the gas side of things. So he'll have to either take that 12 o'clock, which you guys don't see, it's a little bit blacked out until somebody scouts it, but there's a base right up there, and that one has a gas. But it looks like, just like you said, he's going to sneaky deaky up on here onto this 3rd base, this main base over at the top right side of the map. And so if he can hold this, goes unscouted for a while, maybe get a couple Lurkers up to defend once again, this could be really
this is it's got to be ability practices, because immediately you see 3 Hydras walking across the map. He did the same thing last game, uses those to morph into Lurkers, puts them at the top of the ramp, and keeps that base safe. I think what hurt him last time is he came across with some of those Lings, and they got spotted. And the initial push, which is coming out from Zulrah right now, just as same as last time, a couple medics and Marines from the 5 barracks he's using, they're going to make this initial push out, and he needs to be ready for it. And as long as I feel like if he doesn't get seen this time, it could be really good. But is he going to go straight up, or is he going to take a left? Is he just assuming that this base is taken? Because I don't think he saw anything. The timing is going to be really close. Those Lurkers are not done yet. He's going immediately to look for this. This isn't a base down to the bottom left. This is almost this is blind.
This is a blind. He scans the top, sees the eggs.
This is over. Oh my goodness, he's in so much trouble. The stim happens, and they're just surrounded. There's nothing they can do. Is there another stand?
Oh, he has another stand. Oh my god, that's unfortunate. It was so close. If he actually got all 3 of those Lurkers finished up, that ramp would have been so hard to walk.
But now he's going to try and send his Lings over to the camp. I was going to say, I was like, I don't think he should send those Lings over there. That was kind of a blind scout. He kind of made the assumption that his opponent was going to do the same thing, and I don't think he saw anything. I didn't see anything that would have caught that drone going across or those Hydras going across, but good play by Zulrah to realize that Old Man Slum's doing the exact same thing he did last game, so he's able to find that 3rd base and stop it this time, which would be extremely detrimental to Old Man Slum here, because he got that third base up last time. He got kind of pinned in on it, but he got it up and was able to secure it. It's going to be much harder for him to deal with things as he goes for that 12 o'clock base now with 3 lurkers. But that base is going to be harder to hold as well because of the double ramps on both sides.
Indeed, it will. But they are coming, so we will see if they actually end up maybe getting a little bit of damage done here. This is a
those lurkers are finishing luckily here. But yeah, this is going to be a hard spot. This is where those Sunkens are going to come into play. They're going to be more of a tank line almost for these units. But this is exactly what you want as a Zerg player, is the Terran to move in. Creep is not as effective as it is in StarCraft 2, but the Ling's just waiting until the Marines were in a bad position. Microing back is much harder in Brood War. So as you see, Lings were able to get on top of that Bioforce and clean it up. That's really, really good for Old Man Slum, considering he lost that initial third base. To clean up that base with losing almost nothing.
But he does have, defenses ready back at home. He obviously needs to try to consider taking a third here probably pretty soon, but even more so he's worrying about this potential push that'll be coming across the map. Just because he denied that other third, he might actually not have to rush as much. He has lurkers and lings, and so technically while he waits for the Zerg to get back up and running, it's not going to be too big of a problem unless somehow the Zerg gains a lot of surface area quickly on him, which doesn't look to be the case right now.
This is more of a contain what the Zerg's going to look to do. So without that Bioforce on the map, a lot of units lost there. Zerg's going to look to do what Terran did to him last game and kind of corral him into his own base so he can't expand. He's got an Overlord at the bottom of the map, the scout, when the Terran goes for the expansion. So he just wants to kind of contain the Terran and be ready for a counter push that comes out. And that's what the burrowed lurkers and lings in the middle of the map are for. You can catch these Terran units moving across the map on a move command or something like that. You can clean up a ton of it really fast, and then just be able to counterattack yourself and win relatively easily. But it looks like our Terran player is very aware of the fact that our Zerg player is going for a contain, and he's putting up some turrets and stuff to keep these tanks safe. He knows he's going to be in a little bit of a pickle here, I guess you could say, because he has lost that map control. Whereas Zerg had none of it last game, they have all of it this game. And he has a Ling at every single base to make sure that Terran hasn't expanded as well.
Indeed. Sorry, I was a little bit distracted by a couple notifications I was getting on the side. But, I mean, he's already established his third base. This is one of those classic maps, as well as he's grabbing this fourth, where this gets very split situation-y. Like, over almost all the games that I've seen, I think it's a circuit breaker, so like over all the games I've seen, this is one of those maps where usually you see players get up to 7 to 8 bases, and fights are happening all across the map, big position battles, and it gets kind of tank line cut off, sort of like we saw last game, but it is, again, up to Terran. I'm actually a little bit surprised that we're not seeing vultures out here, especially with all of these lings. If you could just vulture mine a lot of this, a lot of these lings would just kind of collapse and fall apart. He could as well get a little bit of support, especially dealing with like Scourge with Goliath, and focus more of his upgrades on tanks and just vultures. He could, I don't know, it's interesting that he's going in the way that he's going again after what we watched last game, but I mean, it did work. The thing here, though, is I feel like right now Old Man Slum is in a little bit of a better position, and he looks a little bit more comfortable on the macro end and producing. We'll just have to see how well he transitions and what he does.
Here comes the attack into that third base, and there are no Gurge here to take out that Science Vessel, so these lurkers are going to get picked off quite quickly, but it looks like they're going to do enough. That second tank was not sieged, and now it's one lurker versus 2 tanks and a Marine, but this is delaying the third of the Terran quite heavily, which is really advantageous for our Zerg player, as he did his own third was quite a bit later, so he's still working up getting on that fourth base, which we'll call it, even though it doesn't have a gas, it's still a fourth base. He's got that up and running now, so he'll be able to get that mineral income going, and we got the defilers going, and I'm assuming, no, there is no, again, there's no Ultralist Den down quite yet. Yeah, there it is. It's now down at the top of the base. He's actually making 2 of them, because he must have thought the same thing we did last time. He's like, oh, I don't have one. I got to make another one. He's got 2 building right next to each other in his main base. But at least we're seeing that come out a little bit early. I feel like it's a couple minutes earlier this time. And that map control gave him the safety to do this, to get that Ultras covered down faster, I think. So
I wonder if he'll notice that he's building 2 of them at the same time right now. Obviously, he'll have to look back into the main base to see what's going on. He's got 2 buildings producing. I wonder if he notices one of those. I mean,
they're both they're both built at almost the same time too. If you click on them, they're almost identical in build time. So it's just one of those feels bad moments. But it actually happens a lot more in remastered and Brood War.
Dude, it happens in
StarCraft 2. It happens in StarCraft 2. But here comes another push. It looks like he's going to try and break this third base again. This third base is fairly well fortified now, though, with 3 tanks, a bunker, and a missile turret. It might be okay. And as he's doing this, it looks like he's trying to make a push out to the north as well. The Defiler clouds come down. Is he going to turn around, or is he just going to keep going for the Zerg base in the north? Looks like he's going to have to.
Yeah, at this point, no reason to turn around just because there's, you're already going to lose what you're going to lose, and now if you don't, you're going to, lose out on a potential heavy push here. And so outside of lurkers and a couple defilers, there's actually not a lot back at home either to defend. So this is a great timing on his part. I think he's got enough back at home with the tanks and the natural and marines where he'll be just fine defending everything else. But yeah, in regards to his far fourth base over here, this could be a little bit of a problem.
Is there any units at home to defend? These Lings are running in, doing some damage. There's no defilers here yet, and the lurkers were a little bit behind, but here comes the cloud, and the lurkers are going to get underneath it, and this is Sitvel's trouble for the Terran. The Terran trying to do some pushing in the top. He is able to pick off the Lings, and he's going to do some damage to the lurkers, but his main base is now being assaulted. Like, his natural is in trouble, and this is what happened with Zerg. Here comes all those Lings now. And what we're seeing also by those double Ultralisks, he is doing double upgrades from each of those dens. He's using them to their fullest ability. It's the double Roach Warren build, man. It's StarCraft 2 all over again. He's using it to get both upgrades out at the same time. And both those upgrades are huge, are amazing in this game, because that's chitinous plating and movement speed for its Ultralisk. Still trying to break this push here. Doesn't look like he has quite enough units yet to do it, and he's going to throw away some Lings. But keeping this Terran on 2 bases right now is pretty good, and if he nullifies the rest of this push, it could be devastating for the Terran. But he just lost all his lurkers at that third base, so he might be in a lot of trouble.
Science
the
vessels.
Scourge came out right on top of the Scourge, or on top of the Science Vessel, and took him out right away. Unfortunately, it looks like, is he going to be able to break this? He needs a Defiler Cloud. There it is. Okay, this should be able to break this now, unless Terran can kite out of it.
Well, he's doing a pretty good job of kiting out of it for the time being. We see.
Yeah, but here comes the Lings from behind. They're going to clear out that last tank, and now there's just a couple bio units versus way too many Zergling.
I will say though, he was able to kill a lot of drones off of that little push right there, though. So even though he's trading as he's trading, he was able to kill off a lot of drones at that point in time. So, there's a couple Marines remaining there. Obviously, he could reproduce everything that he pretty much lost, so it's not, too big.
But here the Ultras are out now, so yeah, that's the thing he was waiting for. He just had to buy time until they came out, and both of their upgrades are done, so they do move faster, and they do have that chitinous plating. This is going to be extremely hard for Zulrah to hold, I feel like. He is nowhere near the amount of tanks he had last time. He lost most of his forces in that push, and he's even on supply with the Zerg currently. And that's after the Zerg lost a bunch of drones, so... Excuse me, got a bit of a yawn there, but here comes another counterattack. Old Man Slum being very proactive with his counterattacks, and is doing a ton of work, and he's going to get a ton of SCVs here. This might equalize that SCV loss that he had earlier. And as he comes to defend, this push from the top is going to come in. Oh man, Zulrah's, I don't know what he's going to be able to do here.
The Vultures are in the game, but a little bit too late, I think, at this point in time. This match is just going to be completely broken.
There's nothing
no
left,
either.
Yeah, there's not a lot you can do, even with a wall. Ultras just don't die very fast, and without any tanks, this is a death push. This is exactly what Old Man Slum wanted to do last time, and it looks like it all came down to that first push and who won that first push to make this game. Who won the game, and it's just map control is everything. It seems like.
GG.
Yeah, GG by Zulrah, unable to defend the huge Zerg push that he was looking for last time. Able to get it up and rolling, and once that ball got rolling, it was almost unstoppable.
Here, pop your camera off and on, because I caught you in a screen cap frozen cam scene that's not very...
Of me rubbing my nose? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, not exactly a flattering image, so I just wanted to give you a chance to get that camera back.
You're good. It happens all the time when I stream. Like, the camera freezes at the most inopportune time. You're like, hey guys, look at me.
Well, that was...
Is it back on yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. But overall, that was a great game from the side of Old Man Slum that time around. He really turned it around. I feel like he teched up a little bit better. Got, obviously, the Ultralisk Cavern out a little bit sooner. Not maybe as fast as he wanted to. to get the ultras out to defend that fourth base, but overall, I think he did a great job that game. Zulrah, great instincts, getting that early third base, scouted out and taken down, but wasn't sort of able to take advantage of it, I don't think, in any way, shape, or form for the time being. A little unfortunate on his side. Yeah, rip camera.
Yeah, rip camera is what's gonna happen now because I don't know what's up with it. Discord won't let me reconnect it, so
yeah, that's all right. Don't worry. We got a little bit of an Estrof logo off of your Discord, so that's just fine. We'll be able to live and survive.
yeah, we'll make it work. I don't know. It's better than me picking my nose, right?
A little bit. That was not a flattering screen cap right there for sure, to say the least.
It happens.
Going on to game 3, it's going to be on Python. I think another kind of interesting map, to say the least. It's not your typical diagonal top right, top left corner. It's a little bit more centralized for what we've seen. There's a 12 o'clock main opening. There's a 9 o'clock, a 6 o'clock, and a 3 o'clock for base opening starting locations and natural. And then after that, if you want to grab a third, you have to make some tough decisions because you're either going to be looking at grabbing a third base that is, well, out in the open, or it's kind of out in the open with less resources and maybe a little bit safer. But there's definitely, the defensive spots are a little bit harder to find here and there. So
yeah, this is gonna be an interesting map to see. Where the last 2 maps kind of had that cookie cutter build where you had like a safe natural and then some choke points to defend at and stuff like that. This map is quite a bit different in that aspect. I mean, they'll still be able to defend their natural, but like you said, the third bases are either across the map or hidden or kind of are wide open for counterattacks. Mm-hmm. So for Terran, it can be a problem. But as we saw last game, Zerg had an issue trying to secure a third for a little while there too. So
no doubt about it. Well, here we go at the 12 o'clock, representing the Zerg race and as well Schoolcraft CC. We have Old Man Slum, aka Oceano. Then from York, the Terran player, down at the 6 o'clock, we have Zulrah. Did I get that correct? I want to make sure. No, I'm not mixing up schools. Yeah, Zulrah's from York, so interesting to see a lot of old influence in terms of Brood War that we've seen come back, I want to say, for the StarCraft 2 side, or sorry, the StarCraft Remaster side. A lot of old schools like the UC San Diego's, Princeton, York. These are all the schools that were participating, I want to say, in the olden days, the ye olden CSL days, because originally what StarCraft was, or sorry, CSL was founded on was Brood War. For the first couple years, it was a Brood War only league, started with like 8 or 16 teams, and then from there just kind of slowly grew every single year. StarCraft 2 came into the picture, and then it just got blown up in regards to the amount of teams and players that played that. Eventually, guys like us joined in a little bit later in the picture, and now, full circle, we're back. We have Brood War and we have StarCraft 2 as well, so really an interesting time. And it's cool to see that just like so many years have passed and there's still so many players that play this game at such a high level as well.
Yeah, it is very impressive, especially Brood War. I mean, this game, like we've mentioned it time and time again during this broadcast, but it really is very complicated to play and do things at the level they're doing them, to see things flow so almost seamlessly. Like we see little mistakes like that, and you would think, oh, well, that's a huge mistake. It's like, no. He's got so many things he's doing right now. It's nothing but impressive that these guys are able to do that, and it's really cool to see that at even just the collegiate level. As for a game that's, how old are we now? Like almost 20 years old. This game.
Oh, basically. I was about to say, how old am I? I'm like, don't ask me. I'm like, I don't even want to remind myself.
I don't even want to know how old I am. But yeah,
I never expected to get to that point in my life where I'd be just like, don't ask my age. I don't even. I'm like, I regret being as old as I am right now already. I'm just like, God, I miss it so much already. Being like in the early 20s, like even a little bit in the late teens. Yeah. Late teens, obviously, it was what it was, but once you got into like college and matured a tiny bit, barely matured.
Oh my God, the drone, hero drone, just killed the SCV that was building a command center. And the Marine comes down and cleans it up. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm just like looking back at it, like even trying to reminisce about the days of starting like playing just StarCraft 2, like how long that's been, the transition from that game into all the other games. It's just like it's wild how quickly time has like passed like over the past 6 years. Because yeah, it was like right around I think right a little bit maybe before maybe in September October it would have been, but yeah, it's been like 6 years since like this whole like fever storm of like esports and casting started. It's kind of
Well, I
wild.
mean, we were like
We were
it's
babies.
we weren't babies, but we were in almost 6 years ago. 6 years this whenever what is it March? 6 years
Hmm.
this March was IPL 4. So
Yeah.
and that's something to think about. And we talk about people coming back. MMA was at that tournament, and he just got back from the military. So I mean, he's old school players. You know,
Hmm.
they don't die. They just hang around for a little while until their game becomes relevant again, and they come back and punch nerds in the face, man.
I mean, you look at like the Brood War players. Obviously, again, I can't exactly evaluate their skill the same way that I look at like StarCraft 2, but they still play at such an incredibly quick pace, and just because of the wisdom of all the years of that they've played, overall, I think they're getting better and better, and they're still like better players than they were in the past. So it's just really incredible to watch. Just all these years to be able to keep that skill level at what it was, and it's kind of proven that point again. It was I think for a time being just because of the financial side of esports. It was a stupid stigma of saying you could only play from when you're like what, like 16, 15 until like you're 22, 23. Now
Yeah.
I think just because of esports, how it's grown, and players, showing that like, hey, we're not actually really dropping off. Like, yeah, you might like, you might not have all the same quick reactions or the same dexterity, but you're still pretty much the same player, and the wisdom that you've gained over the years, it allows you to be that much of a better player already as is. So I don't know. I feel like now the longevity for games is a big possibility if developers do a great job of producing the game or have the proper support systems for the game. So something
Yeah,
like
definitely. I
Broodwell for
agree.
sure.
Yeah, the remastered thing to bring this game back. I mean, it shows its complexity and its depth that people can still come and play it at such a high level and still enjoy it and still create new strategies and things like that and see how things evolve over time is cool. And like you said, developers making their game and putting the time into it to keep it relevant, not just okay, we made this game, it's great, cool, we're done with it. I mean, you got to look at all the games that are esports nowadays, constantly patching, changing things, making sure that the community is happy, making sure things work properly, and keeping people interested is something that's really cool. And Brood War might be a little bit lost to me in some of the aspects. I don't know all the nuances of Terran builds and TVZ and all that stuff, but it's still something that I
Tanks and
understand.
vultures. Tanks and
Yeah,
vultures.
tanks and
All
vultures.
the nuance of the nuance of Terran. It's
The
like
nuance of Terran.
this
That's
is
Terran versus
this is
Protoss. Come
this
on,
is the
man.
first time I've seen like this much bio like produced, even in a TVZ. Like usually I'll
Yeah,
see.
it's just the opening. It's just the standard opening. I remember, like I said, I didn't watch much, but I watched enough Pro League of Brew War to watch it, and this is a very, very standard push, and it's the same builds coming out from both of them this time. Zerg player going for the hidden base on the left side of this map. This base is much closer to the Terran. Is really risky, I feel like, but with how complex the game is, it makes sense to see both players stick to a very core build that makes sense on all three different maps. It's a little bit, you might say it's like a little bit stagnant, but these fights happen differently every time. Here comes the Zerg player, or the Terran player stimming in. These lurkers are not done yet. If he can kill that Sunken before these lurkers pop, this could be really bad. Terran, oh man. These lurkers have to get burrowed as soon as possible. Otherwise, this push might do exactly what it's meant to do, which is almost end the game. The lurkers finally get burrowed. There's no scans to clean them up, but that was quite a bit of damage done there. He cleared out most of those lings and killed the Sunken already, so that's gonna strike the fear of God, I feel like, into the Zerg player here. He is going for the third. The three lurkers are already set up over there to defend, but it looked a little risky there for a moment. More lings coming out to try and deter this push because it may be small, but it is still very scary, especially with more Marines across the map.
Yeah, if he just spreads out rather than walking in a Congo line, he might have an opportunity to break this potentially if he's not, too careful on the defensive side. I think it's smart that he's producing the amount of links that he's going to have because they'll be able to get that little nice surface wall going for them to buy time to take the Terran forces out. Zulrah up 72 to 57 on supply, but, lurkers can do a lot of damage quickly. And there we go. There's that spread I was really looking for. So hopefully, if he does end up going forward, that he will be able to at least get a good scan off, get a good attack, or at least in his case, I would say probably keep 2 scans, right? Because
the lurkers are unburrowed. If he had a scan to know this right now, that could be huge. And he sees it. Oh my goodness, go!
The lurkers are
he's gonna focus fire the lurkers as best as he can. If he can do this, 2 lurkers down, all the lurkers are down. Oh goodness!
Oh my God, I think
man,
this is
Slum
GG.
with a huge mistake. That has to be game. There's no way he can stop this. He has nothing at home. Yep, that's it.
Yeah,
That's
GG.
game. Just like that. That's why he did that push where we're just talking about how it was kind of weird to see bio. It's that strong biomedic, marine medic push that you do that's just able to just crush a Zerg that's not ready for it. Maybe if those 3 lurkers weren't on the other side of the map trying to defend, it could have been different, but really good timing there by Zulrah to catch it right as those lurkers were morphing, weaken the defenses, and then again, maybe just a lucky scan, but catches the lurkers unburrowed and just crushes.
I mean,
the Zerg player.
whether it was lucky or not, it still looked like he was setting up. Like he already had.
Yeah, he definitely was setting it up.
He was setting up for an attack, so I think he was just looking forward to see where his position was. Unfortunately, caught everything as it was. I mean, again, even then, if he had a second scan available as everything was coming up, I think he would have been able to clear enough. We saw how many units actually survived, so I don't know what the difference of those lurkers burrowing, if they would have, it might have been able to get a unit or 2 more down on the Terran side, but I think just because of the concave that he had put up, that move out regardless would have been really hard to pull off. So I don't know. Do you think if he probably would have been better to maybe sit back defensive, get a couple more lurkers out?
I feel like he needed to not unburrow the lurkers all at once there. That's what if the lurkers were burrowed, he would it would have been much closer. But the spread was really good. Losing that sunken was really bad. Obviously, he stopped making workers as well and was just pumping out links. He knew he had to get up, but the only thing that's going to really do damage and stop that push is the lurkers, and they have to be burrowed and they have to be attacking right away. They can't be caught out like that. It does take them a second to burrow too. In that amount of time, you can kill with 12 Marines. You can kill a lurker before it burrows, and that's exactly what Zulrah did. Focused all the lurkers down, killed them, and then it didn't matter what was left because he knew he could win.
No, I completely agree with you. Well, congratulations to Zulrah. Obviously, getting that victory is really big for him because that puts him back into the playing field of his group, which we see right now puts him up at 2-1. Oceano drops to 2-1 himself, which leaves only Park Se-jun, aka Jikiru. If you guys know him, he is leading the pack right now at 3-0 in Group D. Tail ending that group is Xion and Duofist at 0-2 and 0-3. Looking at the other groups really quick as well. Group C, we have Ninja at 3-0, Black Hole at 2-1. Yeah, 2-1. Haram Master 2-1. Oh, sorry, no, that's Park Se-jung that was leading Group D. Jaquita's in Group C, 1-2. D-Pain 0-2. Turd Blossom, what a name! What a name!
What a name! Oh my goodness!
What a name. Good job on that one. Group B, Hawk leading 3-0. Now, Hawk, if you guys don't know who Hawk is, he actually is a former, well, first of all, he's a former Brood War player, but he's also a former StarCraft 2 player in the CSL as well. He used to play for UT, not Arlington. Did he play for UT Arlington or was it North Texas? I can't remember for which of the Texases he played on.
I don't remember. I know he played on a pro team a little while, didn't he?
Yes,
played on
he was
one
on
of the smaller
Quantic.
teams.
He was on
Quantic,
Quantic.
that's what it was. Yeah, I was like, I remember him being on one of those.
I remember because I was there when he was there. So, yeah, he was one of the pro players. I just can't remember. I have to look at the Wikipedia. I don't want to misquote him because he deserves that recognition. Can we get the StarCraft 2 side of it up, though? There we go. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up. I think it was North Texas. Yeah, I think it's North Texas if I'm not mistaken. So, but yeah, really quality, really good player from there, and obviously no surprise that he's leading 3-0. Jisoo 3-1, Loser 2-1, TTE Mingyu 2-1 as well. Chu at 0-3, and King Gudetama at 0-4, and then the final group at Group A. We have Brian at 3-0, Alec at 3-0, Switchblader at 2-1, Sosin at 1-2, and Zuzu sitting at 1-2 themselves. So that's kind of a little bit of an overview if you guys are slowly keeping up with some of the Brood War action here in the CSL. If you guys ever want to just find out what's going on, you guys can always type in exclamation StarCraft 2 or StarCraft Remastered, and you guys can find out all that information inside when you need it. But other than that, I think it was a kind of a fun day of games to watch a ZVT like that, kind of going back and forth how it did. It wasn't,
Yeah,
the second
really
game was
cool.
a lot of fun. The second game obviously was, I think we expected if the game one could have gone how it should have gone. But
yeah, it got to see like all the sides of both people's builds. They used the same build in all 3 games. The maps were different and stuff like that. We saw the Terran catch the Zerg a little bit off guard and keep him contained in the first game. And then we saw in the second game the Terran being proactive again, getting that third base killed, but then losing a lot of his own forces in a counter push and losing his own third base in the push as well. So it just kind of shows like how the builds, even though they were literally the same builds each time, they were how they played out was very different. Little things and shits made them switch back and forth in different ways. Like all it takes is Lurkers to be unburrowed for a game to get ended, like we saw in Game 3. Whereas in Game 1, we saw the hugest tank line possible across the map, and a Zerg player stay in for 30 minutes, still throwing units at him, still doing damage, and holding on. So it's just really interesting to see that happen in Brood War, whereas, they don't switch up strategies as much in StarCraft as they do in StarCraft 2, but you do see a lot of, little things that changes the game completely.
No, completely agree with you. Well, guys, quick little notes. If you guys want to join our Discord community, exclamation Discord in chat, and you guys will be able to join the rest of the CSL community. We have lots and lots of members there, so if you are a Brood War player and you might be having trouble reaching your opponent, you could probably find them there. As well, feel free to continue following us on Twitter at CStarLeague, at CollegianeSC2, and on Facebook.com/CStarLeague to see all the news, updates, articles, cool little updates all over the place. If you guys like power rankings, you guys can find those. Region reports are beginning to come out as well. I know today Dota 1 got released. It was really well written, very in-depth of what's going on in the CSL side of things. And as well, big thank you to Twitch, our partner in crime. While we do everything that we do as the CSL, we wouldn't be where we are without them, especially obviously if you're watching us on Twitch. Hey, you managed to find us on Twitch. So, give them a little bit of a shout out, or if you want to follow their student initiatives as you are students, feel free to go down into our info tab. We have a couple tabs that you could follow them on Twitter, as well as also check out the community Twitch page for collegiate streamers. If you want to see who else is a college student and not doing their homework tonight, definitely that's a place that you could look and find there. If you are interested in seeing SRUF, you guys can catch them next Tuesday. I think it's Purdue versus UMass in VG.
You mean I actually get to cast Vainglory next week?
Yeah, you do. I know, right?
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so that's going to be at 4 p.m. PT next Tuesday on this channel. Come back right before the evening StarCraft 2 broadcast. But other than that, our Twitters are below us. If you have any last words, feel free to toss them out.
Not really. Thanks for letting me cast StarCraft. That is something I never thought I would ever cast.
I've never casted Brood War before either. This is my first one, actually.
Man, I'm glad that we got to hold our hands and go on this journey together.
I know.
Out of all the people,
I'm going to reach out. I'm going to assume you're going
to reach out.
Do that little Wonder Twins fist bump out there. So,
yeah, it was great. I learned a lot, and it was cool to see. I mean, it's just it allows me to appreciate people that play Brood War more because. Damn, that game is hard. I was just playing the tutorial or like the couple first maps before it, just to mess around, and I'm like, oh my god, why can't I make Marines with the right button with the right button? And it's just hotkeys are a mess and everything. So shout out to everyone that still plays StarCraft Remastered, and thumbs up to you guys.
If you're ever complaining, if you ever think your game's too hard or something like that, just get StarCraft Remastered. Good God, it'll make every other game feel like it's so much easier in just an instant. But
yeah, it really does. But yeah, guys, check it out. The regular StarCraft cast will be back next week, so we get a little bit more in depth on that stuff. And they're always good guys too. StarCraft's awesome. Even though I don't play it anymore.
You could watch them this weekend. At
BlizzCon. BlizzCon's this weekend. Let's go Juanito. We believe. Foreigners
Exactly.
unite.
If you want to watch Zombie Grub, she should be casting and doing some coverage as well at BlizzCon, and she'll be back next week as well. So, give them a bit of a shout out, wish them the best of luck this weekend,
And don't forget to register for Vainglory 5v5. Okay, cool. I'm good.
snuck that in. Obviously relevant to this game for sure. Right.
Hey man, I'm a VG caster. What can I say though? But yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We wish you guys a good and happy weekend. Only, I guess, other minor little note. If you guys want to come back tomorrow on the main channel, we have a big quad episode for Dota 2 talking about all the patch notes and everything happening on the CSL side of Dota 2. And if you want to head over to the first channel right now, there is still Dota going on. British Columbia versus...
What's the score is the real question.
1-0 somebody. I don't know.
1-0 somebody. Okay, they're only in game 2. That's impressive.
Yeah, UBC versus Washington. So that should be a fun match. All right, guys. Have a good night. We'll see you next week. Adios.
See ya.